So here's what we're making today. It's a 2-week project, but I wanted one video so you can have the entire project ready to go. So first week, you're going to draw this shoe. You want to make sure you draw your shoe and include only lines and lots of details. You want to make sure you have a sole, the tongue of the shoe is up here, the stitches, the laces. You don't want to forget anything. And we're not just doing one line to show laces, we're going to show thickness by making double lines. Also, you're going to add weight and make sure this stays nice and neat. Our colorful background will create contrast. You pick a shape with 2 different sizes, a small and a large, and then trace it multiple times overlapping and pick a color scheme with 3 to 4 colors to color it in. Also, make sure craftsmanship, it's nice and neat. This is our final project, so after you do this project within the next 2 weeks, you're going to submit it to Padlet and submit the checklist on Teams. Let's get started and I'll show you the different steps. So we're going to do a contour drawing of our shoe. We're going to make sure that this shoe fills the space. We want it as close to real life size as we can. I picked this sneaker over something like this flat shoe, because this has a lot more lines and will make a much more interesting drawing than this basic shoe. So when you're picking your shoe, make sure you're considering that it will make an interesting picture. So when you look at your shoe, what you're going to do, first step is you're going to draw this line from here to here, making sure it fits the space, the sole. So I'm going to draw that, and I'm looking, my eyes are looking at the shapes, and I'm going light, and I'm noticing there's little indents here. Making sure it fits the space. So I have my sole there, then there's like this midsole line. I'm going to get the basic shape in first, and then I'm going to go back in with details and darken my line. And this doesn't come down straight, it comes down kind of bumpy. And then this line that comes up, maybe a little bit thicker than that. And I'm doing this line, and then coming back down. I trace it with my finger kind of to get an idea of where my lines are going in the direction of them. I am not tracing my shoe. I'm on the paper. I'm just tracing with my finger to kind of get my mind and my hand to have an idea of what I'm drawing. And then I'm going to go back in and I'm going to do details like that little tab on the back of the shoe. But that's not just one line. To show that it's 3D, I'm going to do an additional line here that I could see, and then there's a line on the inside. And one of these might have to be darker than the other later to make it look a little bit more 3D. And then I'm looking at things like the stitching on my shoe. Comes down around here. Those patterns, and there's even more detail like the individual stitches, the individual pieces of thread that I will get into later after I know that I have everything where I want it. I want to make sure that I kind of see in here, and I'm looking, so I'm going to draw a line in there to show the other side of the shoe, again to make it look more 3D. And then I have this line that comes back here. And my laces are not straight lines. They're double lines. and then they go into a circular hole. So when you do your laces, you're doing double lines, and then put them in a round curve. And I'm looking, and I could see that the underline is much darker, so I'm going to go back later and put in those shadows. Remember we talked about thicker, darker lines to show 3D dimension, width, weight in our picture. Okay, and then my laces aren't like a regular loop up here. Now that I get up here, they come out and around. They're not a traditional, I know we think 2 loops in a line. Kind of twist and come around and make a knot. There's lots of lines here for the knot. And they come out. Around. So I'm making sure that when I'm looking, laces are not 1 line, they're 2 lines. They have thickness, right? Maybe even 3, because I see a little bit of a stitch in on some of them. So make sure you give them weight by adding more lines, darkness. And now that I have my basic shapes in here, I'm going to speed up the video, and I'm going to just add in my stitches and my different lines that I feel I need to show weight, and I'm going to darken. Now that I'm done with my foreground, that's week 1 of work, what I'm going to do is work on my background. That's the 2nd week of work. So this is a 2-week project, so take your time and make it very detailed. The background, this is very organic lines. We looked at the shapes. There's no clear defined shapes. You can't say that this is a square or a rectangle. You could say it's teardrop shapes, but you can't give it a name like a circle or a rectangle or a parallelogram. So what you're going to do is you're going to find 2 different shapes, 2 different sized shapes. So both are circles in this case, one's smaller, one's larger. You could do squares, you could do triangles. And what you're going to do is you're going to just trace these all over the background, but don't let them touch your shoe. Like, don't overlap with your shoe. So they're behind the shoe. I'm just going to trace in my shapes. And then after I trace in these shapes and overlap, what I'm going to do is I'm going to color it in. You're going to pick a 3 to 4 color scheme, like primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. You could pick cool colors, green, blue, and purple. You could pick a complementary color pair, like purple and yellow. Do lighter purple, darker purple, different shades of yellow to get your 3 to 4 colors in if you choose that. So once you trace in your shapes, you're going to pick your colors and color it in. This creates contrast because our shoe is drawn with pencil or pen or black and white, and our background is going to be very colorful. I'm going to speed it up as I color. So that's my final project. I have contrast of a black and white shoe, pencil drawing, pen drawing. You could even do this drawing online. And then I use crayons to create a warm color scheme with the reds, the oranges, the yellows, and you know pink is a shade of red. So pick your color scheme. You don't have to use crayons. Whatever form of color you have at home, you could use color pencils, you could use watercolor paint, anything that you have at home. Digital drawing, you could probably drop in color on those digital drawings. So I love to see what you make. make sure you share it on Padlet or send it to my email. Okay guys, that's our final project of the school year. Congratulations!